Welcome to Joy in Purpose, a career development podcast. My name is Lola Shodunke. I am a doctoral student in a psychology program. On this platform, I teach millennials how to thrive in their careers. If you think it is possible to be a high-achieving, kind-hearted individual, keep listening. A disclaimer for our audience. This podcast is not a substitution for therapy. It is for educational purposes only. Thank you for listening. As you can probably tell, this podcast is going in a different direction. We are still focusing on purpose. We're specifically focusing on our work life, on our careers. And if you would like for me to go into details on, why this new direction, I can definitely do a podcast episode on that. But I also don't want to waste your time. I really like to get to the point, and I want to keep this podcast episode short. But one of the reasons that I can tell you is that we spend most of our lives at work. And I believe that our purpose for many of us is tied to our work, can be tied to our work. We can find purpose in our jobs, actually. So why not talk about work life and how we can use our work to glorify God? Okay, so let's start with this question. Do you believe that there is such a thing as a dream career? I know for some people, hearing that term, dream career, can make them really nervous. Or make them anxious and feel like a lot of pressure. I don't see it that way. I see it as finding an occupation that you can basically combine your interest, your skill sets, and also opportunities to work on your potential, advance your potential. So that's the way that I see it. What do you guys think? Do you think that there's such a thing as a dream career? Also, I believe that there's some people that they're already in their dream job, quotes and unquote, right? But then God calls them to something totally different that they don't see as their strengths initially. They don't see it as one of their strengths initially. I think that can definitely happen for some people. There is lots of gray area, right? So it's not simple, but it's also not complicated. So let's just go with that for now. And we will keep talking about this because this is going to be the new focus of this podcast. And we're still focused on purpose. So, but for many of us, I believe that God has given us strengths and, our experiences and all of that have shaped us. So for sure, our career can be based off of that. So I am going to go ahead and talk about how do you end up finding your dream career? So I'm so excited. Let's start. So the first thing that I wanted to share with you all is one way to find your dream career. I say, what are the themes of your life? And before we go into that, I actually want to share something that is all about you. So first ask yourself, who am I? Who are you? What is your race? What environment did you grow up in? What is your language? Your culture? What is your family known for? And these questions might seem more like an identity question, which it is, but isn't identity also tied to work? Isn't identity tied to purpose? The reason why I think that these questions are important for you to ask yourself is because, the way you see yourself, like, for example, if you're a Black person living in Nigeria, it's different from being a Black person in any other place, or a Black person in West Africa. The kind of problems that you would notice would be different from someone else who's of a different race, of a different tribe. So it's who are you? I think that is so important. Imagine someone who grew up lower income in certain neighborhoods, and they didn't feel like they got the best education, and now they want to provide that for students. So that's tied into your environment. That's tied into maybe growing up, and there's certain things about your culture that are great, but certain things about your culture that you would like to change. So you might want to create a career around that. Maybe there's a culture of not speaking up. There's a culture of maybe people are going through domestic violence and they don't talk about it. And that becomes your purpose. That becomes your career. So don't overlook who you are, because God made you Black, white, from a certain background. Maybe you're Latino. God made you. He was very purposeful in making you. So don't overlook that, because we're talking about work and career now. Okay. What are your family known for? I think that's also important, because some families are known for people in that family are teachers, they're physicians, they are storytellers. Maybe some family, they're known for volunteering, they're known for giving back. Whenever you want someone to lead something, just go to that family and you will find someone there. I'm not saying this so that you can just put yourself in a box. But I'm saying that these are just things that you can pull from. Maybe people in your family are teachers, right? It doesn't mean that maybe you're going to be a teacher, but then that might make you realize that you have the gift of teaching. Like, I am in a psychology program and I'm going to go on and become a psychologist. Psychologists have teaching abilities, because we teach our clients about their symptoms. A psychologist can throw a workshop, can become a professor, for example, I give talks in my community about mental health awareness. So there are different things to consider. So this is just for you to get to know yourself better. For example, you might have people that are creative in your family. Maybe you're not creative in the way that they are, but you still have that creativity in a way that is different, that you can showcase that gift to the world. I hope this is really helpful for you. So moving right along, I'm still on the who are you? How do you see the world? Like, do you see it as unfair? And this is not maybe because you have a victim mentality. This is maybe you really realize that the world is unfair because you grew up in poverty. You grew up with certain, abilities, known more as disabilities. Maybe you just grew up with certain challenges and you're like, life is not fair. But the cards that I'm dealt with, I'm going to work with them and I'm going to make the best of it. So then you start to think, who else has life been unfair to? And how can I give them the opportunities that maybe you didn't get, so that their life can be more fair? Do you get what I mean? So how do you see life? Do you see life as a competition? Imagine athletes, they see life, they have to be able to pull from within them some kind of competitive mindset. If you see life as a competition, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. You can see it as, how can I be better than my past self? And then you can try to see, how can I make other people be better? Some people that, they come up with video games and things like that. There's a competitiveness to it. So it might be something about you that maybe you're working on because you don't like being so competitive. But there might be a little part of that, some parts of that that can really make a great career. I mean, if you're an athlete, that's a profession, right? You have to be competitive. You have to go in there wanting to win. So, how do you view life? How do you view others? How do others view you? For me, people have told me that I'm really good at teaching, I'm really good at encouraging. I also view myself that way. So that led me eventually to a career in psychology, which fits those, the way that other people view me and the way that I view myself. So I really hope that this is helpful for you. And in the show notes, I'll put my email address and Instagram link so that you can contact me so that we can talk more about this. Okay. So I've already talked about who are you, which encompasses, your background, how other people see you, how you see yourself, which many of those factors, things can be helpful so that you can figure out your dream career. Secondly, I would say, what is your life career themes? So this is the way I would look at that. So what kind of jobs have you enjoyed? What factor about that job did you enjoy? Maybe, did you enjoy the people skills part of it? Talking with people, selling. Have you worked with computers? Did you really enjoy that? Also, I would even go deeper and say, what kind of classes did you enjoy in school? I know some of us don't want to think about college. We don't want to think about even high school. But even if you cannot think of a class that you enjoyed, I would say, are there any topics in classes, in your classes that you enjoyed? So, any specific topics. Maybe there were times that they talked about psychology. There were times where they talked about the human body. There were times where a class talked about selling and advertising and persuading people. Maybe, even if you cannot come up with a class that you like, is there a particular subject? Maybe one day in class, that class topic really just grabbed your attention. So I would look at the themes of your careers and pick from that. What did you like about it? Did you like the fact that maybe some of your jobs you didn't like you didn't like the data entry part of it, but you really enjoy when you got to present the data to people at work. Maybe you had a role that was very similar to consulting. Or maybe there was a project and you were in charge of that project and you got to lead task, break the project down into smaller chunks, and then you were like a leader of that project. You were a leader of that project and you got to assign the tasks to other people in your group. So did you really like that? The reason why I'm not mentioning a career right now is because I think it's very important to figure out what you like, and then we can tie that into a career or find a career that you get to do. You get to implement your strengths, your skill set. I'm checking in again, just to ask you how helpful this is. So now we're gonna get into specifics. So now I'm gonna ask you the third step in finding your dream career is to consider this kind of simplistic occupational classifications, which are data, idea, things, and people. So those things can be very helpful because now you know yourself. Now you've looked at the things that you liked. So now you can kind of categorize them. Is it data or data? Ideas. Do you like working with abstract ideas, things, and people? For example, let's say you realize that you like encouraging, you like leading, you like the idea of being a consultant, and maybe because you've seen your role in other people's life as being like a middleman, a middle person, a middle woman. So you're kind of like a guide that people can come to, talk some things out to, and then you can lead them to, like, you can kind of share with them, okay, this might be your next steps. So if that's you, you like managing, supervising, so you like working with people, you might aspire to be some kind of consultant, human resource manager, and things like that, whereby you get the opportunity to lead people, you're able to direct them, you're able to assign tasks, break down, maybe you know the bigger picture, so you're able to break down the task and assign tasks to people. So you see how that can kind of come together. I know I'm making it sound simple, or maybe it's a lot for you right now. It's getting complicated. I think that the most important thing is to know yourself, know your interests, know your skills. Get a notebook where you're writing all of these things down, and then start to do research on careers that fit into your strengths and your skills. That's what I did. That's what I did. I will share really quickly what I did. So one day, out of frustration, I sat down and I just said, okay, what am I good at? And I wrote down teaching, encouraging, and speaking. And I wrote down, what kind of subjects do I like? What kind of things can I sit down and research about for hours and hours? And it was related to psychology, the brain, the human body. And so I started to think, okay, I really, really like learning about the brain. And what kind of thing can I do for my career? Some things we like them and they're just our interest. So, which is fine. But this is like, what do I want to do for work in the long term? And I like learning about the brain and human behavior. And I like encouraging, teaching, and speaking. And I started to do some research, and I found that psychology would be a really good fit for me. And I'd also be exposed to the field of psychology because I had worked at hospital settings that were like the psychiatry department. And I did something called informational interviewing, and that's going to be my next podcast episode, how that can also help you to boost your career and figure out if a career is right for you. I don't want to go too much into that on this episode, but I really think that the 3 tips that I've shared with you are very helpful if you put them into practice. So put them into practice and just trust the process. Trust the fact that God has not left you to confusion. Even if you think that these steps are pretty easy, just do it. Trust the process and know that you would not be confused for much longer. Yeah, I really hope that this was helpful. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you for listening. Did you find this episode helpful? If you did, please share it with your friends and family. I want you to remember that there is joy in pursuing a life of purpose.